Elite Expert Insider, the podcast that educates, inspires, and motivates you to take your business and life to the next level. We would like to thank Audible for supporting Elite Expert Insider. Please go to the link bit.ly/Elite Audible. That's bit.ly/Elite Audible and get a free 30-day trial to show your support. Thank you, Audible. Now to Elite Expert Insider for conversations with industry leaders.
Hey, welcome. We're so glad to have you here again today for another outstanding podcast. We have a terrific guest. You're going to just love it. I want to remind you that if you are thinking about writing a book or you've written a book and you want to have some marketing and figure out how to sell your book, contact us at eliteonlinepublishing.com. We are a super publisher. We make all our authors #1 best-selling authors and help you market and position your book in the marketplace along with your business. So today we have a woman who faces fear right in the face. I mean, have you ever thought about skiing down a hill like super fast? And she was one of the best women extreme skiers for 12 years in a row. Can you believe that? I mean, I watch those skiers and it just scares me to death. So if anyone's an expert on fear, she is. She's done a lot of other things in her life, and one of them is she has written a book, The Art of Fear. And she's written columns in the New York Times. She's been in magazines. She's been in USA Today, just to name a few things. And she's also written for Penthouse. All right, really versatile. So Kristen Ulmer is here. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Kristen. Give us a background on you.
I am from a small town in New Hampshire, and I skied in jeans until I was 20 years old, which means that I wasn't very committed to skiing. And then 3 years later, I was on the U.S. ski team for moguls and considered the best woman big mountain extreme skier in the world. And I never had any formal coaching. So I'm the poster child for it's all mental. And then after I retired in 2003, I studied with a Zen master for 15 years, and I started being a mindset sports coach, and then people hired me for additional work unrelated to sports as well. And that led me to be a fear specialist, because I was also voted the most fearless woman athlete in North America. And so my whole life has been about either studying about fear, teaching about fear, or dealing with a lot of fear.
That just amazes me that you learned how to ski all by, that's just natural instinct. I mean, that's really pretty impressive. Even though, I mean, and then it sounds like the fear part is natural instinct for you too. So you're naturally innate to be able to conquer that and become athletic. And then the fear part seems natural, even though you study with a Zen master. I think it's just innate in you. Tell us a little bit about your book too.
Well, let me just say that I did some things right and I did some things wrong. And you say the word conquer fear. And actually, my book is called Why Conquering Fear Won't Work and What to Do Instead. So when I, for example, made it on the U.S. ski team, I never actually had a desire to make it on the U.S. ski team. I was just trying to hang out with friends and do some fun road trips, right? Next thing you know, I'm on the U.S. ski team and there's thousands of people watching me ski and cameras in my face. And it was an overwhelming experience. I didn't know how to deal with the fear. And so I took the advice of well-meaning coaches, friends, family, and did what, everybody teaches, which is to conquer, overcome fear, let it go, visualize greatness, positive mental imaging, all of that. And it works, but it's a temporary solution. And it actually just, you push the fear down and then it causes problems that are, long-term become real big problems for people. And so that was one thing that I did, was try to conquer, overcome fear when I was an athlete. And it just does not work. It's such bad advice. And every book, well, not every book, but most books out there are teaching tips on how to breathe it away, let it go, all of that. And it's just bad advice. And my book is not one of those books. It's very, very different.
So tell us a couple things that make your program about fear different versus, like you say, make it go away. And I can understand it. Like, it's almost fear and anxiety. You put it in your body and it's got to go somewhere. It can cause illnesses and can cause a lot of other issues.
Absolutely. Some of the issues that the repression or the pushing down of fear causes are depression, anxiety disorders, panic attacks, PTSD, underperforming, when people come to me to help them learn how to perform better in sports or just in their business or life, if I address their relationship with fear, usually that underperforming issue goes away. So do a lot of these other problems. And so what happens is, it's like we go through life, and let's say we have joy, gratitude, forgiveness. Let's call them children, right? And then we also have fear, anger, sadness, like the bad, the negative children. And we tend to show off to the world over here, but what do we do with these? We push them down into the basement, we lock the door, we throw away the key, and we think, okay, great, got rid of them, momentary relief. But here I am showing off all these wonderful qualities, but what's happening in the basement is they're burning the house down, and they will not be denied, and they will come out in any way they possibly can. They'll hijack my mind and run their agenda through my thinking mind. Whenever my guard is dropped, like when I'm trying to sleep at night, that's when they'll take over. It's just a really bad idea to abuse a child of yours like that, in particular fear, because fear is such a big, big deal in our lives.
Yeah. Well, I think what is important is what Melanie was saying earlier about how some of these things came natural to you. I think more than it coming natural to you is you learned how to face that fear, right? I mean, tell us some things that you teach in your book about, instead of overcoming the fear or conquering the fear, what do you do? What do you face it, or what is it that you do? What is
Facing your fear is very common language, but when we face our fear, it's kind of like you feel like you're facing your enemy. Like, I'm going to face it and I'm going to take out a sword. And so some people, they run away from fear, like they don't do scary things. That's one way to not deal with fear. Another way to not deal with fear is to face it and take out a sword. But then fear is going to take out a bigger sword. You're going to be engaged in a war with this primary core part of you, and it's an unwinnable war. And so more I'm talking about facing it in terms of, in a loving way, like you would face a whining child that's been trying to get your attention for a really long time. You could do this, or you could do this and take out a sword, or you can do this and kind of be engaged with that whining child. Like, hey, honey, what's going on? Like, why are you so loud? And why are you trying to get my attention so desperately? So the advice that I have is, first of all, realize that fear is a natural, normal part of life. And a lot of people think that fear isn't, like if fear shows up, it's a sign of personal weakness, or that it's something to be embarrassed about or hide, or, that it's unnatural. We get intellectually that it's natural, but then when we try to fight it, it's kind of like this. Here's a great story. A man is sitting on a park bench and a bird walks up to him and he goes, "Oh, you're not the bird you're supposed to be." So he picks up the bird and he takes out some clippers and he clips the tail feathers and he clips the wing feathers and he chops off the front inch of the bird's beak, right? Puts the bird back down and says, "There, now you're the bird you're supposed to be." It's kind of a ridiculous story, right? And what that story illustrates is that we have this natural, normal part of who we are, and we're trying to change it. We're trying to alter it. We're trying to make fear not afraid, and it's just not going to work. So the first thing is just realize it's natural. The bird is just the bird. Fear is just fear. And when it shows up, of course, life is a very scary experience. You're going to feel fear if you're going to do big things with your life. So that's the first step.
Yeah, I like what you said. Fear is what I've learned too, is it's like a bully. So, a bully may taunt you and call you names. And if you're like, "Oh my gosh, you're right," and you're fearful, like maybe that you're not going to have enough money to pay your bills, and it's ringing in your head over and over again, especially when you go to sleep. And but then if you manage that and you face it, but then sometimes it ups its game. Like you say, you bring out the sword, it ups its game again. So I really like that. And how do you get to the why, though, when you say you face the fear and you have that conversation with it? Like, why are you feeling that way? Is it difficult to get to that situation to calm the fear?
So listen to your language. You're still referring to it as some sort of bully that needs to be placated or shut down. And so this is the biggest point that I will make in my book, that you will ever hear about fear. See, fear is not the problem in our lives. We have to really get that at our core. It's actually here to help us come alive, be more present, all of that. It's actually an asset and an ally. It's just our misguided interpretation of that fear. that is the problem. That's the bigger issue than the fear itself, the way that we treat fear.
Mm-hmm.
If you treat fear, if you see it like a bully, if you see it as a negative, if you see it as a problem in your life, then you're declaring war on it, and you're going to have that war be against yourself. Like, you're going to be in conflict with yourself all the time. You're going to be trying to change yourself all the time. But if you see fear as a positive, as something that's here to help me,
Mm-hmm.
then that changes everything. And all of a sudden, you're not having that war with fear, and you're making friends with it instead. And any time a child is pushed down and in the basement, right, it's going to come out in a pathological, weird, twisted way. And that's what people are most aware of when they think of fear, is fear from the basement, hijacking our mind, causing us terror in our lives, biting the heads off the hopes and dreams we ever had, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the version of fear that's available to us right now, because we're so used to repressing it. But if we make friends with it, then only its kind of wise, holy version will become available to us. And so again, fear is not the problem. Fear is not the bully. I'm the bully for treating it that way.
Interesting. And you're right. I mean, fear is there to stop you from falling or jumping off a cliff or doing something. It's there to protect you in so many ways, and to analyze the situation before you do it. Your body's saying, maybe you shouldn't jump off that cliff or skydive. It's there. Tell us a little bit about the process of how you started the book. I mean, I know you started to consult with people, and how did that evolve into writing a book?
People came to my ski camps because they wanted to have less fear. And I'm like, well, why would you want to do that? The whole reason why people go skiing is to feel fear. Like, that's why people spend thousands of dollars, because skiing without fear would be really boring, So I just help people make friends with fear. And then what happened is people, like up to 60% of my ski campers, would hire me to be their counselor for things unrelated to sports. Like, maybe they were trying to go through a divorce and they were stuck in indecisiveness, or maybe they were underperforming or burnt out at work, and maybe they were depressed. So I started helping them with these problems. And I found that if I healed their relationship with fear, or changed their perspective around fear as them, instead of seeing it as a negative, but seeing it as a positive, and making friends with that part of them, taking it out of the basement and giving it its rightful place in their lives,
Mm-hmm.
their problems were resolved.
Yeah.
Like really big problems that, like depression or anxiety disorders or panic attacks or PTSD, it was alarming. And so, and very quickly, like just in a few sessions. And so I kind of did the math about 5 years ago. I'm like, well, duh, I'm supposed to be a fear specialist. I was perceived that I had done it right during my ski career. I actually hadn't. I repressed fear just like everybody else. And for me, it showed up as PTSD. I started to hate my sport. Burnout. I had crashed adrenal system. I had injuries that wouldn't heal. I had more and more injuries over time. Like, I was repressing fear just like everybody else does, because that's all we're ever taught. That's what my coaches were teaching me to do. And so in order to heal my own relationship with fear, I became a fear specialist, and then I wrote this book.
So what's the difference between fear and anxiety?
That's a great question. Anxiety, especially if it's persistent and if it seems out of proportion to the situation that you're in, that's nothing more than undealt with fear. And it's the same with irrational fear. Like, if your fear seems excessive or weird or twisted in any way, that's just undealt with fear. And anxiety is just another name for fear. And it's interesting, if you're a CEO of a company, you would never tell the people in your life, like, oh, I'm pickled in fear, right? But it's easy to say, well, I'm pickled in anxiety. But it's exactly the same thing. But in particular, it's undealt with fear.
Mm-hmm. I like that definition. That's really good. Well, you know what I have been kind of observing as you're speaking. I don't know if any of you have seen the new Wonder Woman, but I think, Kristen, you're like Wonder Woman. Like, you are the Wonder Woman, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie, but she isn't really afraid. I mean, they're out in this big war, and she's like, well, let's just go. Let's do it. And they're like, wait, you can't. Like, there's guns and there's, fighting, and we've been in this bunker for however, I don't know how long, or whatever, that ditch they were in for however long they've been in there, months and months and months. And she just went for it. She's like, no, we just got to get it done. Let's just got to go do it. And everyone else was so scared, right?
Oh, I loved Wonder Woman. I cried.
Yeah, it was so good. It was so
Yeah,
good.
well, consider this. She's not fearless. She just has an intimate relationship with her fear. Like,
Right.
think about it. The guy that lifts the bus off the legs of his friend, right? Single-handedly. You know, adrenaline, they say adrenaline,
Yeah.
but actually humans plus fear equals superhuman.
Yeah.
And so she is, she's not in denial of her fear at all. She's probably, of course, she's a fictional character.
Yeah.
I see her as being a warrior with fear, like made strong fear, stronger together versus apart. And so it's like, imagine Batman and Robin. If you're Batman and fear is Robin, you're stronger together than apart. And imagine the power you might feel if you punched Robin in the face, right? Well, yeah, okay, it makes you feel, wow, look at me, look what I did. But you've now rendered yourself really, really weak. You do not want to punch fear in the face. You want to bring fear along for the experience, and together you and fear will be great superheroes.
Love that.
So tell us, a lot of our listeners are thinking about writing a book or have written a book. What kind of things have you done to market your book? And you're with HarperCollins, so it's a traditional publisher, but maybe working with them, what are some of the things that have helped you propel your book and have worked to market it?
This may come as a shock to many, but I was given a book contract with HarperCollins without having to write a book proposal, just based on a 10-minute conversation I had at 1 a.m. at a party, at a Halloween party.
Wow, that's great.
I guess my first advice would be just have a great idea. Like, what I'm teaching about fear is so radically different from anything anybody's ever seen before. It ain't your mama's book on fear. First of all, I have credentials. I have a long, sordid history with doing things wrong with fear, by figuring out the right way, healing myself, working with clients. Like, I have this rich history of becoming a fear specialist. And turns out, we Googled it, I'm the only fear specialist in the world.
Awesome.
Specialist, but isn't that bizarre? I think
It's nice not to have any competition in the marketplace for you, right? Not many businesses can say that.
To teach about fear, it's not like you can study this in a laboratory. I made life or death decisions on a daily basis on what to do about fear. And I tell you, I'm lucky to be alive, though, because I used to repress fear too. So just become an expert in your fear field and just have a great game-changing idea. Like, don't write a book in the same genre of, what everybody else is writing. Like, absolutely redefine existing norms. But it's scary, It's like really scary to write this book. I've been like pickled in fear since I wrote this, because I'm pushing up against drug companies, psychologists, scientists, pre-existing norms about such a huge subject as fear that have been around forever. And so don't be afraid to just really put yourself out there and challenge these existing norms. I mean, what's the quote? Polite women rarely make history, right?
That's so true.
And as for marketing, I'm not the person to talk to about that. It's hard. I mean, it's like, writing the book was such a magical experience for me, but marketing it, it's like I've turned into like a fuller brush salesman. It's like, hey, I'm like reaching out to my friends saying, please post about my book on Facebook. I'm like, oh my God, I was never even, like, I'm on Instagram now. I've been to 80 countries. I haven't taken one photo of any of those trips. Now I'm taking photos and posting them on Instagram. It's like, I want to keep myself, right?
Well, I think it's funny because what happens when you have to be that person and market yourself or market your book is you have to become vulnerable, but at the same time humble, but at the same time you're boisterous and saying, look at me, look at my book, look what I did. And so it's so hard because you've got all these different things going on, and it's not natural for us to say, when we're not doing it all the time, when we're not that personality type, to say, look at me, look at my book, I wrote a book, here it is, and keep saying it over and over and over again.
You want to
hard.
hear the story?
Yeah.
My first podcast interview of this whole game, they hung up on me.
Uh-oh.
And they didn't realize that I could still hear them. And then they talked about me they just said, oh, the audio is bad. They hung up. And it was supposed to be an hour-long interview. And we had only talked for 5 minutes. And it turns out they didn't like what I was saying, and they just started heckling me. And
Oh no, how terrible.
yeah, they like, she's gonna get herself sued. What an idiot, right? Like, who does she think she, like, it was, I listened to 20 minutes of this. This is the first interview.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh.
Same day, one of my mentors who'd been teaching conquering or the repression of fear forever, and you know, oh, you want to align yourself with gratitude and forgiveness, right? And she was in her probably late 70s, refused to write me a blurb for the book. And she said, absolutely not. I will not support your book and your message. I'm like, and this happened within an hour of each other. And so this is like my first moment of bringing this message out into the world. And, you know, it's about fear, you know, it's a big scary message on like, hey, the first sentence of my book is everything you know about fear is wrong. And I was like, oh my gosh, what have I done? I actually called my editor and said, can we hold the presses for 6 months while I rewrite this book? And she talked that off the cliff. And, you know, it's scary. It's really scary. And it feels like a popularity contest.
Well, you know, you're they say you're not really famous or reach success until you have haters. So when someone is balking against you, that's actually a good thing, even though it didn't feel like a good thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, pretty quickly. I mean, we talked for 5 minutes and these guys heckled me for 20 and they were really upset. So I thought, well, that's a good sign.
Yeah, that's a good sign.
Sure.
And I was going to say, the advice that you gave about being different, or I'm getting audio feedback. I don't know if you guys are hearing that, but it was, I think it's good because that transcends for a book and your business. You know, don't be like everybody else. What separates you in your business and your book to stand out for people to use you and to get clients? So I think that advice works great for both. I really appreciate that. Tell us where we can find you.
My website is KristenUlmer.com with an E-N, Kristen, Ulmer.com. You can buy the book through my website and you get a gift. Or you can buy the book just anywhere that books are sold. And I also offer courses and events, online at-home courses, webinars, that sort of thing, to help people. I have a slogan: give me an hour, I'll change your perspective. Give me 6 hours, I'll change your life. Like if somebody is struggling with depression, anxiety disorders, insomnia, PTSD, if you work with me for 6 hours, read the book, that kind of thing, it'll help it be crystal clear where this problem is coming from, and it might even be the complete resolution of those problems. It's really, really powerful what my message is, and it's very different.
Can they do, can you do anyone over the country? Do you do like Zoom meetings or webinar meetings that they can meet with you? So like you're in Salt Lake City, but if someone in New York needed help, you wouldn't have to fly out there?
No, I work with people all over the world and have for about 15 years. And this is my first big, like I'm kind of turning away from my old niche, which is working with people on sports performance. And now I'm going to be devoting my life full time to helping people who have been struggling with these problems and they haven't gotten the results that they want from other methods. So this is now going to be my full-time path. And I would love to hear from you, and I would love to help you.
Great. Well, we'll put that website link at the bottom, and that's generous of you to give a gift. So everyone go to her website, KristenUlmer.com, and buy her book and get her gift, and reach out if you need her help.
See, there I go again, like, okay.
But that's what you're supposed to do.
It's a great book, and it is unlike anything you've ever heard before. And thank you for talking to me today.
Sure. So if you're struggling with anxiety, depression, fear, get her book, The Art of Fear, to help you out and get a whole new perspective. Thanks for joining us today. Remember, if you're looking to write a book and you need it published, please call us at eliteonlinepublishing.com. You can find our phone number there and all the information about our publishing services. And also check us out on Amazon. We have over almost 800 books on Amazon. We have different journals. We have prayer journals. We have guest books. We have just journals just to write your thoughts down. So check all our products out there, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
For more information about us, go to eliteonlinepublishing.com. To get your free book, The Accomplishment and Success Story Starter, simply text your name and email to 832-572-5600. 5285. That's 832-572-5285. We'd also like to thank Audible for supporting Elite Expert Insider. To get your free 30-day trial, please go to bit.ly/Elite Audible. That's bit.ly/Elite Audible and get your free 30-day trial to show your support. Thank you, Audible.